Okay, hi everyone, and welcome to our BGL monthly webinar. So we're now into April, which doesn't seem like it's gone super fast for that first quarter. Today's session is recorded, so if you do need to drop out, would like to show anyone else that the recording, it is published on our YouTube channel. So if you just go to YouTube and search for BGL, you'll be able to find that there. Any of our previous sessions also you will be able to find there. If you have any questions regarding the content of today or anything else regarding either BGL or Smarter SMSF, please answer them there into the Q&A panel. And whether Aaron and I will cover it off at the end, or one of the BGL team who are online can chat through as well. So I'll cover off a BGL update as per normal, what's actually changing with our products. But I'm joined as always by Aaron Dunn, CEO and co-founder of Smarter SMSF. Welcome, Aaron.
Thank you, Jeevan. Good to be here. A bit bleary-eyed. I've just finished our SMSF Day events literally yesterday in Sydney. So Brisbane and Sydney back-to-back the last couple of days, straight into a webinar today. So yeah, but looking forward to sort of going through what's been happening in the SMSF sector and naturally what we've been working on as well.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's always hard when you're jet setting to get back into the zone. And I guess even though there's not much happening, industry-wise, there's also a lot happening, isn't it? So.
Yeah, so within the last month, we've had a budget and an election called. So yeah, add that into a round of presenting, makes it quite interesting as well. So
Definitely. Okay, let's get into the BGL update then. So what I'm going to cover today is just what's actually occurred in our last update. Some stuff on the key features are there, and then I'll talk about some of the things which are coming soon. So we've got some exciting things that are really in the next couple of months coming out there in the pipeline. So let's look at the first one, which is the ability there to resync documents. So I'll jump across into Simple Fund 360, which you see there. So within Simple Fund 360, let's go across and look at a couple of things. So if we go across, first of all, actually, let's go across to the document screen. So across there, obviously, when you have the ability there to upload documents, this is actually something off topic that we're working on across the board. And that's really to unify what the actual upload document process looks like across Simple Fund 360. So we know some of our screens have a slightly different experience. So what we're looking to do is have a uniform experience and bring that across the board. So just a reminder, obviously, if any documents you upload into Simple Fund 360 here, so you've got the ability to obviously just upload individual files. You've got the ability there, each SMSF that you have or entity within Simple Invest 360 has a unique email address, as you'll see there. If you email any documents through there into Simple Fund 360, into that email address, they'll be automatically attached there into the document screen. You do have the ability to use the BGL Engage, which is the mobile app available on Android or iOS to actually upload documents. And you do have something we released late last year, was the ability to even scan documents from your phone without the need to install the app. So you can simply scan that QR code there on your phone. It'll then open up in the browser, and that will give you a unique window, which gives you a time frame of how long you can use that, I should say, and you're able to upload documents or take a photo of them from your phone without the need to even install a mobile app. So you've got various ones. So also what we've done, you do have the ability to obviously load them in as individual files. So even with the email or upload, you can bulk upload individual files. And I don't know if I've got one here. Let's have a look. Something like this. So if you've got a file like this, which is multiple documents scanned in the one file, so let's say on a photocopier, you do have the ability there to split that into individual documents there. So clicking that button there on the top right-hand side. So it doesn't matter how you actually get the document there into Simple Fund 360. What actually occurs behind the scenes is the ability there for the documents to go through and be automatically, I guess, attached to documents going through. So when they're all going through, they're into documents. What we try and do is actually classify the document. What type of document is this? Let's say it's something like this one, like the dividend, a dividend file there going through. You do have the ability there to look at that. And what you'll see with that particular document, it'll then try and classify what is this document. So to try and either attach it to a transaction, matching things like amounts or It could be dates, amounts, depends on the type of document, the information that it's looking to extract. And it will actually go out and repeat that underlying process. What you do have now is the ability there to refresh that. So what it'll do in terms of that refresh, it'll actually go through and look at any documents not attached, and actually go through the process and automatically it'll automatically try and resync documents which haven't been synced through. In terms of that process, obviously, if the document's not something that's part of our AI model, it'll still be need to be attached. If you have attached something there through into work papers, so if we go back into the work paper screen, if something's been automatically attached, you're not going to lose any of that linkage or anything that you've automatically done. So that'll come through and be automatically done there. So jump right across. The other one done there is across is in our smart matching screen. So if I jump back there into our smart matching. So with the smart matching process, this was something we added last year, was again, where there's uncoded transactions is we try and utilize information there from the actual document to actually code that. So it could be, for example, this narration's hopefully pretty obvious that it's you can see that it's a BPay ATO BAS payment, but sometimes those narrations are, they could just contain a transfer number. They could just contain, obviously, like BPay and their reference number. And sometimes it really depends on the institution and the information they're providing through to us in terms of the data feed. Sometimes the information in the data feed isn't exactly matching that is seen on the actual PDF statement or what's actually seen on the internet banking portal there as well. But as part of this, you can see, hopefully there in terms of the matching screen, there's a little SD icon, and that stands for Smart Docs. So that's letting you know that it's actually matched a document to that particular transaction and going to use that information to actually code the transaction. So you can see in this basic example, it's actually picked up that it's BAS statements that I've uploaded. I would have liked to match it across, and I can go through there and click match. Okay, so next big modification we've done there is around our property dashboard. So property dashboard, we've just given a huge facelift. So if we go across there into the property dashboard, it's coming to here. So there's two distinct views here. There's one there for an entity view, and there's one there for a global view. So across your firms going through there. So in there, like obviously there's a help guide that will take you through the process. Anything you had in there previously obviously can go through and link accordingly. There's a couple of different things you can go through and obviously do here. So obviously number one is once a property is in there, you do have the ability there of entering in valuations and the likes. For residential properties especially, we've added in some quick links where you can actually quickly find the actual property. I think this is a fake address, but we'll see. Come through and actually find something that will go through and actually do a quick search for you in terms of finding that property going through. So if you need to actually look that up on one of the, obviously the two common ones there, you do have the ability where you've actually got a valuation to add a document in here. And of course, if you do need to order a valuation, we've got our panel of providers there or recommended providers that you can actually go through and actually go through and order a valuation from. And obviously the relevant services that they provide, etc., are listed there in terms of the website as well. So you can actually go through and actually look at the relevant ones there. We don't promote one over the other in terms of the relevant providers. So you're best to just obviously look through those and see the current ones and obviously which one is more suiting to either the trustees' needs or your firm's need if you're looking for something on a constant provider. What we're actually looking across here is also things you can do there on a global provider. So you can actually look across the board quickly in terms of say the valuations. Okay, let's say I want to say find any valuations which are older than 3 years, etc. Is go and find those and the relevant ones, and see accordingly which ones are sort of out of date. Very quickly. We are continuing to improve and update this screen, so it's not a set and forget at this particular point in time. We are continuing to add a few more things which I'll come through and point out in just a second. The last thing we did added is a new asset allocation report, and this one's by investment accounts. So jumping back there. So jump across the report screen. I'm going to clear that out actually, and oops, I spelled that. So the other one, so the one we've added there is asset allocation by investment account. You do have other different ones there which are available, which all have a slightly different purpose, but this one actually then defaults, rather than using the external information, let's say from the ASX or from Iris or however we might get that information, you do have the ability here to generate this one, which is grouped by the actual control account there within Simple Fund 360. So, and that'll apply obviously for Simple Invest 360 for trust companies, etc. As well. So in terms of the features in our last update, they're the key things that I wanted to cover. So some things here coming soon. So BGL ID, so we're looking to release this into a beta program in our next update, which will be on the 10th of April. 10th of April. So what BGL ID is, the ability there for your client list is the ability to get them. So let's say you've got a new SMSF which you've taken on, is the ability for the trustees to be identified using government sources. So for example, verifying their IDs using their license and Medicare details, for example, ability to order through there. So or other sources, or making sure they're compliant. So it can be used for new or existing clients, and obviously can be done directly from Simple Fund 360 or Simple Invest 360. If you are interested in getting access to that beta program, just click on the feedback button, which is for anyone who's unsure, on the top right hand corner, that provide feedback. Just enter it in there and click submit, and a member of the team will get back through to you. So next one there we're releasing, which I'm going to screenshot there for, is our AI assistant. So this is currently in a sort of a beta at the moment. So but how this will roll out is you'll have this AI assistant here, where you have the ability to ask questions, and these questions, and for those who attended our masterclass late last year, and masterclass this year, or RegTech last year, our sort of in-person conference series, you would have seen this being shown. But there's various questions that you can ask, and let's see if this one will come back, but no, across the board. And this could be on a actual firm basis, so it could be across your firm basis, or it could be across the individual fund. So, and the things you can ask, the questions you ask, are designed to actually, anything that you can actually get the data out of the application for can be asked. An example might be, what do I need to do to complete this fund? So looking at that and looking there across the board, it could be saying, I just want to look at what's the investments for this fund. Give me a list of all the SMSFs which hold, let's say, a commercial property as of this date, and they are in the state of Victoria. It could be, I've got Aaron's SMSF here. Aaron wants to retire at age 65 with a balance of 2.5 million. What's some contribution recommendations that I can do for that? Or please graph out where he needs to be across that board. So there can be some projective things that you can do where that can actually generate. So as we roll this out more and more, we'll give obviously more and more demos. The next coming months, this will be available to everyone. So look out for that. It's not something that we force down. In terms of the AI itself, everything's contained within Simple Fund 360. So nothing actually leaves our servers. It's all utilizing services within BGL's IT infrastructure. Other one, so that's just obviously a little image, but around the properties, a couple of different things we're doing. So what number one is the ability to upload using SmartDocs settlement statements, and it will automatically create the either buy or sell transaction for you using the document that you've uploaded through. So that's something that we're looking at in sort of coming months. The other one we've got there is particularly around commercial properties where they're actually self-managed in terms of the property management, and they want the ability to issue an invoice directly from Simple Fund 360 for that property. So, so coming soon, it's something that's under development at the moment, is you'll have the ability to issue invoices for those properties there within the property dashboard. Okay, we'll have a new lodgement screen which is available. So this will serve a couple of purposes. So it'll obviously be a new and modern look for the existing data. But what we're also doing is connecting to a whole bunch of different or new to BGL tax agent APIs that we'll be able to download information from automatically. So there's similar information that you're able to see I guess on the online services for tax agents, you'll be able to see there within the screen for that particular client as well. So an example is for a super fund. So let's say we've got the Jeevan super fund and let's say you don't utilize Simple Fund 360 for BAS lodgements, but what you're able to see within the application is all the actual return types for that particular entity and what's the actual lodgement stats for that particular entity and also for that particular tax agent. Where you've obviously got multiple tax agents within the practice, you obviously can get those stats on a tax agent basis as well. And we're also adding functions like the ability to lodge return not necessaries and get some other bits of information as well. A common question we get is the ability to lodge T-bars. Unfortunately, ATO still don't have that on their roadmap at the moment. So, you know, through the tax agent portal is still the most, you know, practical, I suppose the most practical method, but as soon as the ATO allows something different, we will obviously jump on it straight away. Macquarie Bank. So Macquarie Bank's opened up a service for us where at the moment, if you're do have a Macquarie Bank feed and it's utilizing it's through BGL's account, so it's not through your own Macquarie ESI credentials. Every 6 months, Macquarie will send to us the actual I suppose PDF bank statements there directly to us, which we will import directly into the fund for you. So this will mean on top of the actual direct feed and that data coming in on a daily basis, it means at the end of the 6 months, those statements will automatically come through and automatically be attached in working papers for you, ready to reconcile, ready for audit. Macquarie have said they will open this up to individual advisors, ESIs at a later date, but they're just running obviously this pilot at the moment, and we'll you know, expand that going forward. That's it for me. So I'll pass over to Aaron. I'll just give you control, Aaron.
Yep.
Yep, you should be good.
All right, thank you. So yeah, as I said at the very beginning, the last month has been busy yet quiet. I think it's probably the fair assessment to say here, because as I'd indicated, we did have a federal budget. It was probably fair to say it was a federal budget that no one actually wanted to have. Cyclone Albert put a very quick stop to the early date of which was meant to be 12 May as the election day, and that election was meant to have been called pretty much that weekend. So what we were expecting with, in essence, no budget ultimately was about 93 pages of not much other than what they were naturally going to be rolling out as part of their election promises that we would see in the lead up to our 3 May federal election date now. So from a superannuation point of view, very quiet night, no real impacts on SMSFs. The other part to that was pretty much straight after our federal budget, we had a 3-day period of government convening, but ultimately within that period, that was just an opportunity to try and roll through things like we saw those next round of tax cuts, which are intending to take effect from the 1 July 2026. Positively, we saw the instant tax write-off. I know not related to SMSFs, but for small business, that finally got resolved, because that was an outstanding matter as well. But what it does mean is that all of the bills that were before government that have not been finalised, whether in the House of Reps or the Senate, have now lapsed. And the most relevant to us in our industry is, of course, the Division 296 tax measures, or the measures that were going to introduce an additional tax for those with balances above $3 million. So in its current form right now, that tax is dead. But the question is it dead, or is it going to be subject to what government get formed? And the answer is that it appears to be, it will be dependent upon what government and what shape government takes form. And the reason why I say that is because if Division 296 was ultimately dead and buried, we would have had to have seen some adjustment within the budget papers to the previous year's budget, where the revenue from those measures to kick off from 1 July 2025 would have been adjusted. So the Labor Party appear to want to continue, subject to them forming government, with those Division 296 tax measures. Why? Because they have already started spending that money. How can you say they've started spending that money? Well, one of the conditions that the Greens provided them for passage is superannuation on paid parental leave, and those measures have already taken effect, and from memory are starting on the 1st of July coming. So Division 296 in its current form right now, we have no problems, I guess, in that starting from the 1st of July 2025. Okay, so we're going to have to wait and see what government looks like going forward. Are we going to have a majority in the House? Are we going to have a minority government and then have to negotiate? What's the Senate going to look like? There are a number of things that we need to wait and see that are ultimately going to dictate what Division 296 looks like, and then potentially any further superannuation change. The coalition government have kind of put a stake in the ground themselves, saying they don't intend on having any major superannuation changes. They have also indicated that the only change that they'll be looking to do is to kind of unlock the ability for individual younger first home buyers to be able to utilise superannuation for that purpose. So you will find a lot of debate and discussion through this election cycle here around the Labor government talking about superannuation for long-term savings against their objective of super that was legislated in December last year, versus where the coalition government stand, as I had just indicated. So I think we'll see a fair bit more water go under the bridge around superannuation and the differences in views as we move closer to our election date in early May. The other one, and I touched on this last month, where those of you that attended, the fact that we now have a legacy pension amnesty, and that is the ability for those lifetime complying and life expectancy pensions, defined benefits within SMSFs and market link pensions, to be able to exit what these non-commutable pensions have been. So in essence, commuting a non-commutable pension. And we have a 5-year amnesty around that takes us through, in essence, to 2029, based upon these laws starting on the 7th of December last year. Now, one of the big issues that we were waiting for further guidance on was for clients that are currently have these pensions in place, but are using it for asset test exempt purposes. So they either have 100% asset test exemption if it's prior to September 04, or if they have 50% asset test exemption, which took them through to pensions after up until the 20th of September 2007. So we were waiting on some relief from the Minister of Social Services, and they ultimately provided that debt waiver relief last Friday. And ultimately, what this debt waiver relief is doing is to say, well, if you were now able, or if you are now able to commute one of these pensions that was subject to asset test exemption, we will waive the relief for you to be able to, for them to claw back potentially up to 5 years of benefits that they have received via age pension. Now, there's a few little anomalies and things, sticky, I guess, things that we need to be conscious of this. Ultimately, there's two parts to the relief. One is if you undertake a commutation. The other part is around, well, if you do things like adjustments to your governing rules that open up the ability to it, it will in essence taint the asset test exemption and potentially give the government the right to undertake that particular clawback. Now, in saying that, the relief waiver there is designed to ensure that that doesn't occur, but we do have some time period to work through because these are regulations, not actual bills that go through Parliament. So there is a disallowance period attached to that. And what I will say is if you do have clients in this area, I'd suggest joining us, and I say us because Jeevan and I and Tim Miller from Smarter SMSF will be hosting a webinar on the 29th of April. So BGL clients will be able to find out a bit more about that when that is issued in the very not too distant future, I think is the right answer there, Jeevan. So, and not only will we talk about the technical aspects, but we'll naturally talk through what you need to do within your Simple Fund 360 software as well. And the other thing that I just wanted to note, and a lot of this has actually gone live overnight, is that the ATO has actually gone through and conducted a full review and a complete refresh of all its SMSF web content. So Jeevan and I were only talking before this, and one of those areas that we just saw some different commentary on there and some other information that hadn't necessarily been there before was things around like SMSF investment strategies. So it would just be worthwhile taking the time to have a look at some of that content that the ATO has on their site. It has had, like I said, a pretty big refresh. So it would be worthwhile getting yourself up to speed with some of those. If you've got a whole heap of links saved, some of those links might not work anymore. So Jeevan, that might be something for your team on the on all your resources. I know we've got that same problem within our course content as well. But again, just a reminder that they have gone through and undertaken a full and comprehensive review and refresh around all of the SMSF content on the ATO website. The other part that I just wanted to talk to, because we do continue naturally to see a change happening right across things. So one of the things that we've done, and again, we'll talk a bit more about this in the upcoming webinar, is we've created a legacy pension hub. So we know that there's not many firms that have 20, 30, 40 of these, but people will have one of them or two of them or three of them. So to assist in that, we have created, and we're building this at the moment to be available within the our BGL Simple Fund 360 connection to order documents, but you'll be able to undertake those market link pension commutations. You'll be able to update the deeds to allow for these regulations, and where you might have other defined benefit ones which are not great in volume, you'll be able to do that through manual request forms to us and reserve allocations as well. So if you do have these pensions, be aware of the fact that we've got this stuff available to help navigate. A lot of it is, given that it is legacy, it's 20 years old in terms of how they apply and the knowledge and stuff. So this is an area that we've done a lot of work in. Both myself and Tim have significant experience, and Tim was involved in all the Treasury discussions around this as well. So yeah, again, just understand that this sort of stuff is now available. And the other thing that I just wanted to, I guess, just reiterate to people from a technical point of view is when you are looking to go through process of deed updates, just again, making sure that your deed is remaining current with what is happening in the industry today. So because ultimately the deed acts as the engine for your client's SMSF to deal with decisions. So the law changes over time. We see court decisions that will impact that. And then naturally, there are other aspects to the family nucleus that we might need to manage risk and then optimize strategies for. So if we have deeds that are outdated, ultimately it's going to end up in situations where we have conflicts with the law. It may prohibit us from actually doing things. And a good example of that is something like a downsizer contribution, where many of us might have updated deeds for the reforms in 2017, but then simply 12 months later, we saw the downsizer rules come in, and the deed may not allow for that, even though we may be looking to undertake that strategy with our clients. And the other part to that is from a succession point of view and just the management of that fund, we constantly see a disalignment between the governing rules of the fund and then the constitution. And that comes down to decision making. And in particular, when we see court cases and stuff, this is where some of these things ultimately blow up. So it does raise the question, well, how often should you update your deed, and why, therefore, is it important to maintain the currency of these ongoing changes? And to help answer that, what we have done at Smarter SMSF is just to provide you with a sort of a breakdown decade by decade of some of the really important areas that would have needed us to contemplate deed changes. So we can go back to 2007 with the super reforms, and we can go back to things like BDBNs and when SMSFs were introduced in 99. We then take ourselves through to 2017, and we'd like to think that most clients have gone through some sort of process of upgrading to 2017 when we saw the introduction of the transfer balance cap and many of those aspects since that point in time. But in many instances, there may not have been many updates since then. So therefore, it is important for you just to take the time and opportunity to revisit what may have happened since those last deed updates have occurred. And you can see on the right-hand side here, there are a number of things that would be relevant. Even though we haven't had major reform, there may be enough here to contemplate that decision. Whether it's the increase in the number of members, whether it's through to the Hill and Zuda High Court decision around the binding death benefit nominations, whether it's the legacy pension amnesty rules in more recent times, so on and so forth. So I've included this in here just to give you some reference point to the things that have changed, the way in which contributions can be accepted and age limits. And ultimately, it's going to come down to whether the deed that you have is quite prescriptive in terms of how this works, or it's quite broad around the application that would allow for a far more fluid adjustment in the laws, as long as the acceptance of contributions maybe comply with the superannuation laws more generally, and you would have definitions around those types of items. So once you start to identify whether you are or aren't going to undertake that, the question then becomes, are you undertaking a whole of replacement? So are you simply just updating and replacing in totality, or are you going to alter specific rules within the deed itself? And the biggest area that we see people not getting right is process. And that is understanding how the process needs to operate to make that change, and then who needs to be involved in that process for that change to be done validly. Quite often we see where someone is just assuming that it's just done by the trustee, but it may require that powers to be undertaken by the member or by both of those parties. And quite often we will see other parties attached to that deed with funds that have been around for some period of time, whether it's a principal employer, employer sponsor, or founder. So going through that complete history is fundamentally important here to ensure that the validity of that upgrade is done and done correctly, so that the subsequent documents that you use and do, binding nominations, pensions, and so forth, will also hold up if they are ever challenged in the future. And the final piece that I just want to add to that is that if you're going through this process, it is important to check in with your client to make sure that we haven't got any specific things in place that by upgrading this may ultimately taint the estate planning that may have been done, or some other legal things that may be relevant to them. So one of those may be that we've got BDBNs in place and they're very specific to the previous deed. We have legacy pensions. So again, they go back to deeds that may be around in 2004 or 5. So any good variation here will allow for carry through provisions or rules to ensure that those documents remain on foot. But equally to that, there may have been circumstances where there's been specific tailoring by a solicitor to accommodate the need of a trustee or member. So again, just belt and braces would suggest that you make sure that you're checking off those things as part of the overall process. So what have we done at Smarter SMSF? We obviously undertake a lot of deeds, both in establishment, but then also through the process of upgrades. Our deed, we've made changes all the way through to February this year, naturally to incorporate those legacy pension changes. And you can order that from within Simple Fund 360. You can go to your connections tab and order documents, and that will log you in to our platform to be able to undertake a deed upgrade and allow you to integrate automatically and choose your client, and all the information that we can pull out of Simple Fund 360 to do that process, you have the ability to do so. Now, as part of that ordering process, you can use our legal review service that would give you legal sign-off via our legal partner, Hill Legal, and subject to the scope of the work. If you've got one deed upgrade, there might not have been a deed before, versus 8, 9, 10 upgrades, there will be different levels that will determine the pricing of that particular review. And what we've done is we've built that as a workflow, so that enables you, if you choose legal review, using a traffic light system that will effectively say that that is at review, and there's a process to finalize that. And then once that review process is done, you will then go in and then generate that document. And as you can see on there, it will in essence turn from an amber to a purple process. So the final thing that I just wanted to touch on this, and this is a new feature that we only released late last year, and I've got to give Jeevan a bit of credit for this. So when I spoke to him at the time, is we've now introduced a bulk uploading process. So originally we had a CSV function, and we were using that for a broad number of things. And we also have a client list function in there that we have an integration with Simple Fund 360 to connect the data. And I was showing Jeevan, and he goes, yeah, this looks all really good, but why don't you actually just connect your clients in there and then do some sort of bulk ordering process, and then it will create all the orders that you need. I'm like, what a great idea. So yeah, so I've got to give him some credit here. And as I said, what it allows you to do is use the API that we have with Simple Fund, bring in the information that we need to complete that order. And then from the client list, as you can see on the screenshot here, it will allow you to choose those super funds, and then it will generate all of those orders in bulk for you. So if you've got 100 deed upgrades you want to do, in essence, it's going to create 100 of those saved orders for you. It will then allow for that to be have a review process. We have a admin console that allows for, say, a manager to review an individual's staff, team members' work. And then you can go through that process, review and submit, or review and request legal review, and then submit, and then go through that process as well. So who are using these? Many of our document subscribers are naturally going through this process themselves, but equally you can use this function on a pay-as-you-go basis if you want to as well. We also, under our sort of larger tier subscriptions, we've got the ability to customize with cover pages and that sort of thing, so you can upload cover pages to replace our standard cover page with some of your own branding too. So I just wanted to share that because we are seeing definitely a growth in the number of deed updates that we're getting, and many of those reasons that I highlighted on that table before why people are doing it. So if you are looking at that as a process, whether you're doing it sort of on a one-on-one basis or you're looking to do it on a bulk ordering basis, naturally making sure that it's up to date with all of the current laws and I guess what's happening within the industry, but then equally using the technology stack that's available, the APIs and this sort of bulk ordering function, to do that as efficiently and effectively as you possibly can. So that pretty much takes me to the end, Jeeves. I will hand it back to you.
Okay, we'll about fighting for control at the moment.
Yep.
So I guess we'll go into our Q&A section. One thing one thing I will point out to everyone too is a couple different places. If you go onto your fund dashboard there, you do have the ability there to, let's say if you haven't stored the trust deed or the trust deed details for the particular SMSF, you do have the ability to do it here directly from the fund dashboard by clicking that trust deed option. So that can be both either the initial deed or any variations going through. You can play it, or if you go into fund details, you do have that information down below here as well on a very similar basis. So you can enter that information in there. So if that information there is stored into there, that's what Smarter SMSF will pull through in terms of the actual trust deed information there. What it also allows, going back, if you go to your insights dashboard, there is the ability there to look at things like the modified date. So if I maybe go onto this one, you can actually filter by your particular SMSFs here, maybe before you proceed and say, okay, I want to find anything that's older than a particular date as well. But obviously you need that information, I guess, within Simple Fund 360 first before you can either do that information going through. So as might be good practice if for those that don't have that data stored within Simple Fund 360 as you're going through your annual accounts, is to add into your procedures to actually enter that information in if it's not already stored. So you can either filter or perform bulk updates.
Yep, correct. So yeah, exactly right. So what I was just going to add to that, Jeevan, was to say, so we will grab in fund trustee details, addresses, all that sort of stuff, and then over the past probably 6 months or so, wasn't it? Maybe a touch longer, that trust deed information becomes available. So if it's not in there, then naturally we don't get it. If it is in there, then we can pull it down. So it will update based upon the number of deeds that are in there, and then put those references into the schedule around the history of the variations that have been included. So the information that we can draw out for the purposes of this is going to be as good as the information you have in your software. And then once that process has been done in the completed orders, we can then send that document through the API straight back in to put it into the documents area inside Simple Fund 360 for you.
Sue's asked Sue's asked a question for you there, Aaron.
Yep.
We do a deed update using Smart Docs for one fund. I think she meant Smart SMSF. I think last time we checked, we had to give you access to all funds.
No, so when you connect, you just have to choose what fund that you want to provide access to. So on the connections page, you can add you can either add all, or you can add individually the fund for the API that you want to provide that connection to. So that's entirely up to you. And that may also be within the controls of that individual with the connection as well, subject to the access that they have for those individuals. I think that's right as well, Jeevan. I might just...
That's right. So you can change that on the API level in terms of what access. You can also, if you're conscious about security, you could revoke access after you've done the order, completely. But obviously, it's you do have the flexibility there of you determining what access is provided.
Yep. Yeah, and that's at the user level too, though, I believe as well. So you can set up within Simple Fund 360 the levels of permission that you want at user levels. Naturally, there are default levels that BGL have, but you can then also customize those for particular staff within your organization too.
So the question there from Angela, can we print a report which shows which funds do or don't have their trust deeds updated? So we showed you there before on the insights dashboard, you do have the ability to filter, but you can also on the right hand side just download that. So if you select the entity one, download that to Excel, that'll actually export an Excel list for you of those ones where you can actually work through and say, okay, which ones do I need to actually add the information there into Simple Fund 360. Cool. Question there. If we have, so Simple Fund question, if we have the deed saved in permanent docs already, can we attach it there to fund details? It's a very good question. I actually don't know the answer to that. So let's have a look. Going through, but I think not at the moment. So I think at the moment it's asking to download. But as I said, we are changing the document import window. So when we do go through and modify that, oh no, you can do that. Sorry, yes, you can. So there we go. All right. So once you click on upload, you can go through and find either the tag, or I don't know if I've got the actual document name here. I've got trust deed sample there. You can go through and actually select that existing one. So I've corrected myself there. The answer is yes, you can do that now.
Yeah. So we would be pushing that into there via our API, and then you'd be able to connect it onto that page in essence. That'd be right, Jeevan.
That's right. That's right. So you'll pull that from there, and you'll pull the correct document. So then you won't have to, if you are using the Smarter SMSF service, you won't need to re-upload that. Lisa's asked a question about valuations. So I think, so she asked a question that a formal valuation is done at year end, but sometimes informal valuations done throughout the year. And they'd like to filter for that. So I think at the moment it's just purely filtering on dates. So I'll speak to the team about if we can add some more advanced filters so they can be done on things like the valuation type. Because at the moment, obviously we do store that information, I believe, at the moment in terms of the valuation type, but we don't actually allow you to filter on that. So we'll need to enhance that one across there. Looking through in terms of information, I think Malcolm asked a question about uploading a CHESS statement. What happens with smart docs? By memory, I haven't looked at a CHESS statement for a while. I tend to just bin them, but I think they only store really the ASX code and the units. There's no amount or actually trade date. It's also the date as well. So it may not work in terms of enough information in terms of matching. It should still get stored against the correct investment though. And that's because the registries themselves only really receive how many units on or off. They're not actually looking at how you actually done that. Was it an off market transfer? Was, they're not actually looking at information on the CHESS level. It's actually just more, what's the units position change from there. What other questions we have through?
The one there in the contribution reserving form, Jeevan, I guess just from my point of view, there isn't any change, and the reality is there won't be any change because it's a very specific thing to SMSFs that is used but not used, that often, and it's simply just a, I guess, an administrative task that the ATO needs to deal with. Based upon the way that the law currently applies. So the reality is I would not be expecting any change from the manual form that needs to be completed and lodged that we currently have to do.
And I saw a question pop up, which is someone with a keen eye. Probably the last question is, as they probably saw, I'm actually using a different left-hand side menu to what you have there. This is something we're potentially looking to roll out. And again, actually potentially in our next update, it'll be opt-in though, so we're not going to force a new menu upon you. There are some changes there across the board, but I'll cover that in our next webinar in terms of that, but it will be opt-in, so you won't be forced to actually go through and use that. But as whoever that was did have a keen eye there. I think that's all the questions, unless something's just popped up. Yeah. So no, with the webinar to close. So thank you, Aaron, for your time and
pleasure.
And thank you. And thank you, I guess, more importantly, to everyone else for attending and listening through. As I said, this session will be recorded. So if you did miss any or like to share it with anyone, it will be available on our YouTube channel, and a link to the recording will be emailed to everyone. Thank you, everyone, and see you next time.